Thank you. Happy to meet you all. So when a theoretical physicist starts studying cities, when all of you guys are spending this beautiful Saturday afternoon here in a dark room learning about cities, I think we can officially say that cities have become trendy. Not only are we all obsessed with cities, we take pictures of them and upload it on Instagram in sepia tones. Urbanized, the film, has become a cult classic. We're obsessed with cities today. But we also all kind of fancy ourselves to be urbanists as well. We're all real estate developers now with pop-up shops. We're all landscape architects with parklets. We're also all urban designers with urban prototyping festivals like the one that Jake's going to talk about later today. What's happening here? I think that in this new age of increasing urbanization, people like you and me are really getting interested in the world and the cities around us and want to impact the cities and the communities around us ourselves. But there's a problem. Cities are incredibly complex organisms, as Jeffrey West just explained. They're made up of incredible networks of streets, of infrastructure, of buildings. Those are all things that are really difficult to get permitted and also really difficult to build. So how do you have an impact on that? Let's not forget what cities really are. Cities are simply agglomerations of people and the things that people build. Like Jeffrey West said, cities are basically physical manifestations of human interaction. We all started living in cities together because it was more efficient for us to defend ourselves together, to share goats and sheep with one another, to specialize as cobblers or as welders. It was more efficient to share streets and eventually electricity all together in cities. Cities exist because of the symbiosis and because of sharing of physical space, of infrastructure, and of services. So some of you may know Ed Glazer, the Harvard economist who wrote the book, The Triumph of the City. He wrote, "Collaboration is the central truth behind civilization's success and the primary reason why cities exist." Today, it is this collaboration that enthusiastic urbanists like you all here and myself are pursuing on our own so that we can make the city better around us incrementally. And that's where this phenomenon called the sharing economy enters into the annals of urban history. People are now sharing the homes they live in, the cars they own, their bikes, their power drills, their skills, even their extra time, not just with their neighbors, but with total strangers all the way across the world. This return to sharing may actually be a renewed belief in the commons. I actually think it's due to two simple global dynamics. It's really no coincidence that sharing has exploded since the recession hit. People can no longer afford the things that they actually own. So they've started sharing or renting the assets that they don't use all the time in order to hold on to those assets. Sharing would not have been able to scale as quickly as it has in the past 4 years if it hadn't been for the internet. These internet companies that have created new network technologies and social tools like Facebook have essentially just taken an age-old practice, sharing, and scaled it to more people more safely and securely and efficiently than ever before. The websites and the apps that everybody's building just lower the barrier to entry so that individuals throughout the world can connect with each other and share with each other more than ever before. But the sharing economy is taking these online networks and grounding them in the real world and in cities. So what is the impact of sharing on cities? That's actually what I get to spend most of my days thinking about. I manage public policy for a sharing economy company called Airbnb. I'm actually kind of out of place there because really, I'm an urban planner. I'm just moonlighting in the tech world. The story of how I came to be at Airbnb, I think actually helps explain what I believe the impacts of sharing to be on cities. So when I went to graduate school, I wanted to make cities better places to live, work, play, and visit. I focused my studies on tourism planning and development. How can you take one of the world's most important industries and integrate it more authentically and more sustainably in the urban fabric of cities? So for example, instead of building a downtown shopping mall or a massive convention center, why don't we encourage tourists to go out into the neighborhoods where local residents actually live and to disappear into the city? When I graduated, I didn't realize that I had been spending the past couple years advocating the tenets of the sharing economy, that cities should use their existing resources more efficiently to create more authentic, more efficient, more productive, and more sustainable urban experiences. So I went and I wanted to go work at a city, and that's exactly what I did. I became a consultant and consulted with cities throughout the world. I even had a quick stint in city government myself. But what I learned was it's incredibly difficult to change the status quo, to encourage a new form of urban development that didn't rely on building new infrastructure, but instead on using the existing infrastructure more efficiently. And that's when I came across Airbnb. Airbnb was practicing exactly what I preached. It was allowing ordinary residents to use their greatest assets, the homes that they live in, open them up to visitors from throughout the world to stay in the diverse neighborhoods throughout the city. And this didn't require the Economic Development Office of the city or the Tourism Bureau to create a master plan and implement it top down. No, it just required ordinary individuals to create this economy on their own, bottom up, one person, one transaction at a time. This is essentially taking a multi-billion-dollar global industry, the tourism industry, and grounding it not just in their cities, but in their neighborhoods and on their blocks. And this is the same thing that all the sharing economy companies are doing, whether they're renting cars, bikes, drills, scooters, skills, or time. They're taking multi-billion-dollar global industries and rooting them in cities and in neighborhoods with real people and integrating these industries into the urban fabric and into the urban residents that live there. So I actually think the benefits of this sharing on cities are incremental but extraordinarily promising. Renters are saving money. Instead of buying a power drill from China, they're renting one from their neighbor. And the money they save, they can spend on something they actually need. Sellers are making money. They're making money from the things that they already own. So we know that in the United States today, most people are living in houses that they can't actually afford. So now they can rent out the extra space in their house occasionally in order to make ends meet. The sharing economy is pretty great for the environment also. The more efficiently we use our existing resources, the more we preserve the Earth's natural resources. So instead of buying a new car, you can rent a car from your neighbor. That keeps one more car off the road, but that also keeps a factory in Detroit from building another car. And if you're worried about the economic implications of that, go buy a book called Natural Capitalism, and then we can talk. Now let's talk about the greater economic impacts of this sharing. What are the impacts on the local economies? An Airbnb guest is putting money directly in the pocket of a local resident, their host. But they're also spending more money in the neighborhood where they're staying in, at the local shop, at the local restaurant, These are all locally owned businesses that would never have otherwise seen tourism spending before. This has an enormous impact on local economies today, when local economies need it most. And finally, the social impacts of sharing. Neighbors are getting to know each other once again by sharing their cars, their bikes, their power drills with one another. But also, strangers from halfway across the world are having cultural exchanges themselves by sharing the homes that they live in with each other. I think that sharing and the sharing economy today is creating a new sense of community, not just in our cities, but throughout the world. So it turns out, I'm actually not all that out of place at Airbnb and in the tech world. For someone who really cares about making cities better, the sharing economy is a great place to land. I personally think that I have more impact on the world's cities working at Airbnb than I would have if I had been a traditional planner. Just look at how much impact Airbnb has had in 4 years and in one night in 30,000 cities throughout the world. It's incredible. So while technology and technology companies have certainly catalyzed this reemergence of sharing, we all need to remember something really important. The products that these companies are creating are not just websites. The products are the real-world experiences that they're facilitating. These innovative technology companies are simply leveraging all of the connectivity online and creating more connectivity offline. They're allowing ordinary urban dwellers like you and I to make the cities and the communities that we live in better, one interaction at a time. They're turning consumers into sharers, the original urbanists. For a long time, we'd actually forgotten how to live in cities. We forgot that we didn't need a single-family home on an acre lot with a four-car garage, and a washing machine. But now we're starting to remember the true promise of cities. In this age of rapid urbanization, we need more than ever to make cities work more efficiently, more productively, more sustainably than ever before. And to do that, we have to learn how to live in cities again. We have to learn how to share. Thank you.